The wind cut through the narrow ice cave like a knife, sharp and unforgiving. Frost clung to every surface, sparkling like fractured glass under the weak sun. A gloved hand brushed away centuries of ice and revealed a skeleton frozen in perfect stillness, its jaw slightly open, as if gasping one last word. But it wasn't the age or the preserved state that caused the shiver. It was the object clutched in its pocket, a smartphone, sleek, metallic, impossibly advanced. The screen flickered to life, and a series of photos slid across its display, each dated 2035. The images showed places that didn't exist, people who hadn't been born, and events that hadn't happened yet. Who had carried this device into death? And how had it survived the glaciers intact for centuries, holding secrets of a future no one was supposed to see? Every discovery raised another question, a thread unraveling a tapestry of impossible time. What vanished into the ice, and what did it take with it? The discovery drew a crowd of scientists and thrill-seekers alike, each step echoing on the frozen cave floor. Rumors spread like wildfire, a skeleton holding proof of a future that no one should know. Cameras clicked, drones buzzed, but nothing could mask the eerie silence lingering in the air. Every photograph on that glowing device told stories that didn't exist yet. Of cities with impossible technology, people who hadn't been born, and events still waiting decades away. Some whispered that the glacier had trapped time itself. Every observer felt the same chilling question crawling through their mind. Was this merely a freak accident, or had time fractured around them? The glacier seemed alive, groaning and cracking as if protesting the intrusion. Instruments beeped erratically, unable to make sense of the temperature fluctuations around the skeleton. A historian traced the carvings nearby, symbols that no known culture could explain. The photographs remained a window to the impossible, a future encoded into fragile glass and metal, waiting silently for someone to believe. Every heartbeat echoed in the vast cold, a reminder that some mysteries refused to be solved. Night fell, and the ice cave transformed into a cathedral of shadows. Lights from torches bounced off walls like specters. The skeleton seemed to breathe under the glow of the smartphone, its frozen hand clutching secrets of centuries yet to come. Every sound amplified. The cracking of ice, distant howls of the wind, turning silence into a chorus of unease. Someone dared to ask aloud, could a device really survive decades, centuries untouched, holding the visions of a world not yet born? Morning came, thin and gray, revealing the cave's icy architecture in harsh relief. The smartphone lay open, displaying a series of images no one could verify. Each photo whispered of impossible futures, towering cities, strange vehicles, faces that belonged to no living person. Specialists argued. Theories collided, but all agreed on one thing. This skeleton held a puzzle that defied logic. Every photo, every frozen bone seemed to pulse with the same question. If the future could be glimpsed, what responsibility did the present hold? The news of the ice cave and the smartphone photos spread faster than wildfire. Investigators arrived, each carrying instruments, notebooks, and a quiet skepticism that masked their curiosity. Every step on the frozen ground felt heavy, as though the glacier itself weighed down on them. They debated whether the images were hoaxes, relics of time travel, or something far stranger. Nightmarish possibilities crept into every conversation. What if these photos predicted disasters, inventions, or events that would rewrite history? And more urgently, who else might have seen them before? The future, frozen and luminous in a single device, suddenly seemed alarmingly close. A specialist in ancient languages traced symbols etched into the icy walls. Each line defied conventional understanding, hinting at messages encoded across time itself. The team felt unease, as if the glacier were listening. One of the photos displayed a cityscape with impossible architecture. Another, a person seemingly stepping out of the void. Was the ice cave a portal, or merely a vault for secrets someone wanted buried? Questions multiplied faster than answers could arrive, and the team realized their curiosity might be their only compass. The air felt charged, vibrating with tension as if the cave itself whispered warnings. A drone hovered, capturing the intricate formations of ice, but the skeleton remained the centerpiece, eternal and unnerving. Each photograph revealed anomalies: a bridge floating above water, a sky with strange lights. Every image invited disbelief, but the evidence was undeniable. Something had survived centuries untouched, holding visions of a world not yet realized. And as night approached, the cave's shadows seemed to deepen, stretching like fingers into the minds of those who dared to look. They worked in silence now, tension thick between whispered hypotheses. Someone suggested the photos might be warnings. Others, glimpses of history rewritten, but each glance at the device felt heavier, pressing reality against imagination. The skeleton remained impassive, frozen in time, yet somehow alive in its quiet testimony. Every movement, every flash of light, felt like the beginning of something impossible. And the question lingered: if the future had left its fingerprints here, who would be brave enough to read them? By morning, the cave was alive with whispers and questions, every footprint a testament to human curiosity. The photographs had revealed more than images. They carried possibility, uncertainty, and dread. Each investigator felt the weight of knowing something they shouldn't. A secret buried, not just in ice, but in the flow of time itself. As they carefully documented each discovery, they couldn't shake the feeling that the cave had one final message, waiting to reveal itself. Something extraordinary was frozen here, and the world would never be the same again. The investigation had grown tense. Satellite scans suggested the glacier itself was shifting faster than expected, carving new passages around the cave. Inside, the skeleton seemed almost to watch, its smartphone casting ghostly light across the icy walls. Every photo flickered with visions that shouldn't exist. A city engulfed in flames decades before it should appear. People walking where no one had ever lived. A chill ran through the team, the sense of inevitability weighing on their shoulders. If the device could predict the future, then every decision, every action could ripple into disaster. Who, or what, had left this artifact here, and why now? The air itself seemed to whisper the same question. Was this discovery a gift or a warning? A strange signal began to interfere with their equipment, flickering screens and erratic readings. The team huddled, unease mounting, as the smartphone's photos seemed to respond to the disturbances. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the ice, hinting at forms that vanished when directly observed. Each image pulled them deeper into uncertainty, a tug-of-war between reality and the impossible. The cave was no longer just a frozen tomb. It had become a conduit, a place where time itself might bend. Fear and fascination collided with every breath. The team traced footprints leading away from the skeleton deeper into uncharted caverns. Each step revealed walls etched with impossible symbols, patterns that seemed to shift when not directly looked at. The smartphone displayed photos of these same formations, though they had never been explored before. Questions multiplied faster than answers could arrive. Was someone else guiding them, or had the cave itself captured fragments of a future not yet written? Every shadow, every echo seemed to carry the weight of inevitability. A sudden tremor rattled the cavern, ice cracking above them with a deafening roar. Debris fell, scattering the team and illuminating the skeleton in a final eerie glow. Photos on the device flickered, showing visions of chaos and unfamiliar landscapes. The cave felt alive, almost sentient, testing their resolve. Every heartbeat pounded against the walls, echoing the same terrifying question. Could they escape with the knowledge they had uncovered, or would the glacier claim them? Just as it had preserved the skeleton for centuries. After the tremor, silence returned like a frozen shroud. The skeleton remained, untouched, Smartphone dim but still alive with unknown data. The investigators stared, shaken, realizing that the device had survived both time and catastrophe. Each photo now felt heavier, like a warning pressed into their minds. And though the cave seemed dormant, the message it carried was clear. The future was watching. Every choice they would make from this moment forward might ripple across decades or centuries, and somewhere, somehow, the origin of this enigma waited for its next witness. The skeleton's smartphone had become the center of obsession. Every investigator handled it with reverence, tracing each photo, each anomaly, each impossible detail. Night outside the cave deepened, winds screaming over the glacier as though warning them to leave. The images displayed events that had yet to occur. Cities submerged in water, skies streaked with unnatural colors, people moving in ways that defied physics. The team debated whether these visions were predictions or memories from another timeline. And in the eerie silence, one thought lingered louder than all. If the future was recorded here, was it fixed? Or could they change it? The lead investigator noticed a new photo had appeared overnight. One not present before. It showed a strange structure carved into the glacier, one none of them had yet discovered. Their hearts raced. Was the device predicting or guiding them? Every theory seemed insufficient. The cave itself appeared to pulse with an unseen intelligence, testing their courage, questioning their motives. One misstep could trigger disaster. And as they stared at the glowing screen, an unshakable chill gripped them. The skeleton had been waiting for someone to see this, and that someone was them. They decided to follow the guidance of the images, venturing deeper into uncharted ice corridors. Each step was a calculated risk, as the walls shifted slightly with the glacier's slow, relentless movement. The smartphone displayed a map overlay, impossible coordinates appearing to adjust in real time. Shadows danced unnaturally along the walls, teasing glimpses of forms that might or might not exist. Every heartbeat accelerated, echoing in the frozen passage like a warning drum. The cave felt alive, aware, and increasingly impatient. Suddenly, a fissure opened beneath their feet, cracking with a sound that made their bones rattle. Ice dust filled the air. The skeleton remained frozen in its original place, undisturbed, smartphone flickering. Suddenly, the team narrowly avoided falling, hearts pounding. The smartphone displayed images of the fissure moments before it appeared. It was no longer merely a recording device, it was a warning system. The cave and its guardian had been protecting knowledge, preserving glimpses of a future that could only be understood by those willing to confront it. In the aftermath, silence returned to the cavern. The fissure had closed slightly, as though forgiving their intrusion. The investigators regrouped, shaken but more determined than ever. Every photo on the skeleton's smartphone now seemed like a puzzle piece, a fragment of a narrative stretching across centuries. And while the glacier loomed over them, cold and indifferent, a creeping realization took hold. The skeleton had chosen to reveal this secret to them, but the cost of understanding it fully was unknown. The cave held its breath, and so did they. The skeleton's smartphone had begun displaying videos now, moving images of places that did not exist, people they could not identify, and events that defied comprehension. Each clip played silently, but their eyes felt deafened by the weight of what they saw. The cave seemed to grow colder, more oppressive, as if warning them to stop. And yet, curiosity pushed them forward. Every investigator felt it, the irresistible pull of knowing, the terrifying allure of a future glimpsed too soon. Time itself seemed suspended, frozen like the bones before them, waiting to reveal secrets no one was meant to understand. One assistant noticed a figure in a video that matched someone standing among them. Panic rippled through the team. Was the device predicting them, or showing them a version of themselves from another time? The wind howled outside, rattling the cave like a living creature. Every instinct screamed to retreat, yet their minds were trapped by fascination. The skeleton's presence was no longer passive. It was a silent orchestrator, a keeper of impossible knowledge, forcing them to confront questions that had no answers. And all the while, the glacier seemed to pulse, alive with memory and warning. The team decided to explore deeper chambers the smartphone seemed to indicate. Each corridor twisted unnaturally, walls narrowing and expanding like breathing ice. Shadows lengthened and flickered across frozen formations, creating illusions of movement where there was none. The smartphone displayed images of corridors that did not exist until they arrived at them. Fear and disbelief collided with every step, yet a magnetic pull drove them onward. Something ancient, something sentient had left these clues, waiting for them to follow. Each heartbeat echoed in icy silence, a reminder that some discoveries demand both courage and sacrifice. A hidden chamber revealed itself suddenly, walls covered in inscriptions and strange frozen artifacts. The skeleton's smartphone projected holographic images that matched the symbols perfectly, as if the device had mapped the cave itself. The investigators gasped. This was more than a discovery. It was a message across time, the airs electric with anticipation and dread. Could these symbols be instructions or warnings? Every flicker of light on the ice seemed purposeful, deliberate, and alive. The cave had shifted from being a vault to being a test, and they were now its chosen participants. The smartphone finally displayed a single final image, a figure standing at the cave entrance silhouetted against the light of a frozen horizon, reaching toward them. The investigators felt a chill, their breaths visible in the frigid air. Time seemed to shiver, pause, and hold its gaze. The cave had delivered its ultimate question. Who would witness the future, and who would be consumed by it? Every image, every frozen shard of ice, carried a warning they could not ignore. And as they stared at the skeleton and its impossible device, they understood. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only survive. The team left the hidden chamber behind, carrying a sense of foreboding heavier than any equipment. Outside, the glacier seemed to breathe, each crack and groan echoing like a living heartbeat. The smartphone's photos now felt like a tether to a reality they could not yet comprehend. Every glance at the glowing device reminded them that the future was no longer abstract. It was tangible, frozen in metal and ice. Questions multiplied. Were they explorers, witnesses, or participants in a story that had begun long before them? And the more they pondered, the clearer one truth became. The glacier had secrets, and it was patient enough to wait for the right moment to reveal them. The wind carried whispers through jagged ice formations, bending reality as they navigated the glacier. Every photo on the smartphone seemed to pulse, revealing new locations and new faces with impossible clarity. The investigators felt a tension that clawed at their nerves. They were now part of a timeline they didn't fully understand. Each step on the frozen ground was mirrored by images in the device, as if the cave itself were aware of their choices. And somewhere in the distant ice, a pattern began to emerge, hinting that the skeleton's secret was larger than the cave itself, stretching beyond time. They discovered an anomaly in the glacier. A fissure leading into darkness, the edges carved by forces that seemed beyond natural explanation. The smartphone displayed the interior before they had entered, as though it was predicting their path. Shadows moved where none should be, and their breath hung frozen in the air. Fear and curiosity fought for dominance, but every instinct told them this was the only way forward. The cave, the glacier, the skeleton. All were part of a puzzle that transcended time, and they had no choice but to follow its logic. As they entered the fissure, the temperature dropped sharply. Their footsteps echoed through narrow tunnels that seemed impossibly deep. The smartphone's glow illuminated frozen stalagmites and cryptic symbols etched into walls. Each symbol seemed to shift, subtly rearranging as they passed, as if the cave itself were alive. Every investigator felt the weight of centuries pressing down, the skeleton's silent presence a reminder that time had been waiting for them. And then, deep within the glacier, they glimpsed an opening. a chamber filled with ice that glimmered like liquid crystal, as though the cave held the future frozen in its heart. At the heart of the chamber, the investigators found a crystalline structure, pulsating faintly with light. The smartphone displayed images of this very formation before they had entered, confirming the impossible. It had predicted their path. Every heartbeat seemed amplified in the crystalline silence. Time, frozen and fluid, converged around them, and as they approached, a sense of revelation and dread settled over them. The glacier, the skeleton, and the device were not merely remnants of the past. They were guardians of the future, and the investigators had been chosen to witness what no one else had ever survived to see. The final chamber felt alive, every crystal reflecting and refracting the faint light from the skeleton's smartphone. The investigators approached cautiously, hearts pounding, realizing that the device had guided them here for a reason. Images on the screen flickered between what was, what is, and what could be, merging time into a single incomprehensible moment. The glacier seemed to breathe around them, ice shifting subtly, almost in rhythm with their own pulse. And in that suspended silence, one truth became undeniable. The skeleton had not merely preserved a secret, it had preserved a warning. To understand the future was to bear a burden that no human had ever carried before. The smartphone projected one final holographic image, an endless horizon of frozen landscapes dotted with silhouettes, some recognizable, some impossible. Every investigator felt the weight of unseen eyes observing, as if the glacier itself had become sentient. The skeleton's stillness contrasted with the living visions in the hologram, reminding them that time had been patient, indifferent, and deliberate. And as they watched, they understood the warning. The future could be glimpsed, but never altered without consequence. Every choice mattered, and yet some forces moved beyond comprehension. One assistant reached out to touch the hologram, but a shiver ran through the chamber as if the ice itself rejected interference. The smartphone flickered violently, images overlapping in chaos, showing alternate realities, disasters, and glimpses of lives that would never be. Fear and awe battled in equal measure. The skeleton remained untouched, a silent sentinel holding the key to secrets they could only partially comprehend. And in the silence that followed, they realized the truth. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only witnessed, and some knowledge comes with a price too heavy to bear. The chamber began to tremble slightly, as if acknowledging their presence. Frost fell like soft snow, dusting the investigators and skeleton alike. Every crystal reflected fragments of their own faces, intertwined with impossible landscapes from the hologram. It was clear now that the skeleton and smartphone had been waiting for someone to witness this convergence of time. And in that moment, the investigators understood the magnitude of what they had uncovered. A frozen archive of the future, preserved in silence, patience, and ice, waiting for those willing to see what was never meant to be seen. As they finally retreated from the glacier, the cave seemed to close behind them, silent and watchful. The skeleton remained seated, timeless and immovable, smartphone dim but still alive with visions of what could be. Each investigator carried a lingering unease, the weight of knowledge pressing on their shoulders. The world outside continued, unaware of the frozen future hidden deep in ice. And as they looked back one last time, a single question echoed in their minds, haunting and unanswerable. Who else would stumble upon this secret, and would they survive to tell the tale?